Guys, this is Mrs. Fanton. Today we're going to do our asynchronous lesson on using and citing legitimate sources. All right, so how do I know if my sources are valid? That's the first question you want to ask yourself when you're doing research. A lot of people would say any websites that end with .org, .net, or .gov are legitimate websites. However, survey says that's not always true. Sometimes those websites cannot be at all legitimate or something worthy for your papers. So then how do I know? So here's some questions to ask yourself. Who's sponsoring the website? So think to yourself, like, why would somebody sponsor a website that only has certain kinds of information? Well, if I'm selling something, right? If I'm selling something, I might sponsor some researchers to prove that my product is really, really, really good. And so they may skew the results to continue to get money. So you want to look at who's sponsoring it because they may persuade the writer to write things a certain way. What evidence do they provide for their statements? Are they using research-based strategies? Are they using scientists, doctors, people that have actually used the products or the medication? Or are they using themselves, their friends, their family? Like, who's providing the evidence? Where is it coming from? What type of data are they presenting and where did they get it? So where's this research coming from? Is it coming only from the business that owns the product or the medication or a group that only feels a certain way towards a topic? Or is there data coming from multiple sources from multiple sides? And how much of what they say is fact versus opinion? Do they have actual evidence? Do they have actual proof? Or are they just stating what they believe? So think about these things when you're reading information and trying to provide some kind of evidence for your papers. The next thing is how to use Wikipedia as a source. Say what? Well, actually, you can use Wikipedia. Here's how. When you go to a Wikipedia page, if you scroll down to the bottom, they have a bunch of sources of where they're getting their information from. Click on one of those sources. It may actually have really good information, and then use that. I wouldn't necessarily use the Wikipedia page, but I'd go down again to the bottom where they have sources and go from there. Some of their sources are really, really good and provide really great factual, evidence-based information. So how do you sort, or why do I have to cite my sources? Why? So why do I have to tell you where it's coming from? Well, the biggest reason is plagiarism. And that's when you take someone else's work or ideas and pass them off as your own. So if you state some really great facts and really great information, but you don't say where it's coming from, people that read your paper are going to assume that you came up with that information. And that's plagiarism. That's basically considered stealing. So you have to put where it's coming from. Not only that, it also makes your information more credible and more valuable to the reader because they know that it's not all based just off of you. You got your information from multiple people. Common knowledge, though, does not need to be sorted. So this is like information such as the names of famous heroes or things that most people would know, like the winter is cold. You know, that's something that most people know. So you don't have to find a source to prove that. Holidays, you know, Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday. You don't have to cite that. Most people already know. So statistics, data, proposition, laws, those are not common knowledge. So if you have a statistic such as 8 out of 10 people that drink and drive end up in jail. Well, that's really great information, but where did that come from? You need to cite that from a source. The law that states that children up until the age of 2 must be backwards in their car seat. That's a great law. Some people know it, some people don't, but you need to cite that. Okay, so anything really that is not something that everyone would know needs to be cited. Here's an example from MIT of what is common knowledge and what isn't. So, all right, so looking at these different statements, let's figure out which ones are common knowledge, which ones need to be cited. Okay, the first one. The Big Bang Theory posts that the universe began billions of years ago with an enormous explosion. All right, that's something that most people know. Most people have heard that somewhere or another. So that is just common knowledge. We don't have to cite that. Let's try number 2. The phrase Big Bang was coined by Sir Fred Hoyle, an English astronomer. Hoyle used the term to mock the theory which he disagreed with. Common knowledge or needs to be cited? What do you think? If you chose needs to be cited, you are right on. Good job. Let's try number 3. According to the Big Bang model, the initial explosion was produced when an infinitely hot, dense center, referred to as a singularity, began to expand, giving rise to the particles that eventually formed into our universe. Common knowledge needs to be cited. Absolutely needs to be cited. Yeah, good job, you guys. Definitely needs to be cited because that's something that most people would not just know. So we need to cite a source. All right, what's parenthetical citation or in-text citation? All right, parenthetical citations tell your reader which sources you pulled the information from. This adds to the validity of your findings. It allows the reader to fact check and feel more comfortable about your findings and is more convicting when making an argument or call to action. All right, so this is like any of those statements from before that we said need to be cited. Right then in the middle of your paper, you're going to say where it came from. Instead of just waiting till the end and having a whole bunch of sources like we used to do when we were young, we're also going to put it right there in the middle of the paper so your reader knows which things come from which source. So here's a little example. The amount of time that Ms. Farland spends citing all formal papers must be written in third person. McFarland, 2016, indicates that this is an important element to pay attention to when writing a paper. So you can see this part in quotes comes right from her. And that's your citation right here. So whether or not it's a direct quote or not, you have to cite it. So you'd put it right here. You'd put this little citation right here in the middle of the paper. And then on your works cited page at the end, you'd have the whole big thing. Make sense? All right, so when do I use a parenthetical citation? Anytime you pull a fact that is not common knowledge from a source, if you use quotes, you paraphrase, you have expert opinions, any of those are great times to use parenthetical citation. This next thing, using citation machine to cite a source. All right, I'm going to take you over to Citation Machine real quick so you can see what it looks like. Okay guys, this is Citation Machine. It's just citationmachine.net. What you're going to do at the very beginning is decide which citation you have to use or which style you have to use. Most papers require APA or MLA. Let's start with MLA. So you click on it. Now, if you found your website or you found your information from a website, you'd put the website right in here. If you found it from a book, you'd click on book and you'd put the title here. So let's say you are using information from The Great Gatsby. You'd fill it in there. It's search for the book. And then you say, which one did you use? I'm going to say I used this one. I click on it. Click next. All right. Now, if I have any of this information that's blank, I would fill it in, but I don't. And then guess what? They did it for me. So right here, this is how it's going to go into my works cited page. So all I have to do is copy and paste. If I click here for parenthetical, now this is how it's written inside my paper. So every time I use information from the book, I put this inside my paper right then. And then the other thing goes at the end. And look, it even has a little copy paste thing for me. So you do that whether you use a website, whatever you use, you just stick that right in there. Isn't that cool? All right, we are all done. So you're going to go back to our class website and fill in the comment box. In the box, type out 3 things you learned from this lesson. All right? You can do it. Only 3 things. You'll earn credit for this asynchronous session. Great job, you guys.